I should be going live right now. And then if I do share and I come over here, take this link. And let me see if I can do this to you through Zoom. So this session, chat. Okay. I just sent you a link via chat. If you click on that, you should be able to see the live stream. If not, I'll send it to you via email, but I just thought, let me try chat on the Zoom thing. I don't know if you're hearing me or not at all, Brian.
No, you're in. I'm trying to figure out how to get
Okay.
the chat. Get that, once I went to YouTube, I don't need that anymore because it says video unavailable.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna wanna close that out. I'll send it to you via email. Label it new link. And that'll be out in just a second. Okay, let me see here. So right now,
I got the chat. I see
okay.
nothing in the chat. Nothing there.
You don't see a link in.
There's no message.
Okay, well, if just go to your email then and search for the message that says new link. And that should hopefully take you to the live feed, which you'll see me live, but you'll hear your voice probably echoed and delayed. So I'll just keep here talking for a moment and play a little bit of whatever stupid.
Well, I got the email. I clicked on the link. It's like it's trying to get to YouTube.
Okay, it hopefully should take it because it's now a public link, so it's not.
There you are.
If you
well, I've got your picture. I see you talking.
Okay, your voice should start coming in. Well, it should start.
I see you sitting there drinking a beer.
Yep. But you're not hearing your voice kind of come back a few seconds later at you?
No, not hearing you, not hearing me.
Okay, that's interesting. Because now I've got two instances of the chat up here. Yeah, just do me a favor, ramble on for like 30 seconds so that let me see what I can try to troubleshoot on this end as to why you're not hearing yourself.
All right. Well, the main question I've got right off is at this stage, I understand the ultimate purpose of this, but are we not putting the cart instead of the horse? So, if the concept, as I see it, is to replicate essentially a talk radio show so that the subscriber is going to get the same thing he would get if he was listening to a radio show. He'd get the audio. The video thing, I go either way on that. I don't understand the importance of it or even traction to it because the very few times I've listened, watched, sought podcasts that had somebody talking, so what? I'm looking at a screen with some guy mouthing off like Joe Rogan. If he's got a guest, then I see the guest. So I see two people talking. I just never understood what the fuck's the attraction. I'm there for content. If there's going to be some insertion of video clips for content purposes, okay, great. And here's a picture of me, shooting my next door neighbor. And here's a picture of me, designing an IED, and here's a picture of me, and here's what Okay, great. Show and tell. I understand that, but the initial thrust, as I see it, is essentially a talk radio show where you would be doing what I always hated listening to Limbaugh when he talked to what's his dick. He'd sit there and say, "Yeah, so not what was his name? Henry
Snerdley.
Yeah, no, his real name, the guy at ABC, the black guy.
Yeah.
I know he called him both Snerdley.
James Golden.
James Golden. So he'd say to Golden, he said, well, Bo Snerdley says that, what do you think about this? Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I get, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well. So he thinks that that we never should have gotten into Venezuela without having the Wienermobile and a giant good humor truck. I hated that. I hated the fact that he would sit there and talk to this guy off air, where he could have been on air. There was nothing. I saw the setup. There was nothing about that booth, that arrangement, where he could have just pushed a button and Golden would have been on the air. And you could have heard the back and forth. And to the extent that that was relevant to the content of the broadcast, fine. But to sit there and talk to somebody off the air, and you, yeah, right, Dodge, yeah, no, Musk, yeah. So fucking rude, and the listeners sit there saying, what the fuck are they talking about? So anyway, my point is that in this case, you could not be on there audio wise. I wouldn't see it as necessarily where we're gonna where we would team up and do a 2-man show. I talk, you talk. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get into something that's not involved or would take that long to develop or would be difficult to control time wise. But I do see either as an explanation for why we don't have two-way conversation with a call-in or something, or to just start off with a topic. Pick a topic, any topic, just start out the topic. Okay, Venezuela. All right, so everybody's got their pennies in a wad over us going into Venezuela. And everybody's talking about, is it a declaration of war or is it an executive order, commander-in-chief? Half the people commenting don't know what the hell they're talking about. The other half only know parts of what they're talking about, unless you're talking to Jonathan Turley, a constitutional law professor and lawyer who's argued cases and argued points specifically in this genre. Then everybody might as well just shut the hell up. The real need in the conversation for the Venezuela topic is, what is it really all about? Because damn well you're not going to put the world's largest naval armada down in the Caribbean and surrounding Venezuela with aircraft carriers, submarines, all sorts of other ships at sea, because you want to pick off a fucking drug runner. I mean, that's asinine. There's got to be more to it, and there is. There's the oil that we're finding out about. It's going to, and how is that going to work out? Oh, it's not going to cost us anything. The oil company is going to do it. In the same breath, he says they're going to be reimbursed. By whom? With whose money? And then you're not even talking about the 122,000 square kilometers of, I can't recall the name right now, this area that's got gold and silver and rare earths and the oil and every other damn thing. And we're also not talking about the tariff and the export prohibition that China leveled on silver 3 days before our incursion in there to pick up Maduro. So now we're going to run Venezuela, which means the silver mines of Venezuela are going to be cut to nothing. China's going to have this tariff and prohibition on exports of silver from China. That's going to create this monstrous short squeeze on silver, where there's 356 contracts to every 1 ounce of gold silver. So, I wonder what that's going to do to the price of silver. especially since everybody's punting out of paper the contracts, the ETFs, and so on, because now they're giving all they want. Now they want the hardcore, they want the tangible stuff, because this paper stuff just ain't cutting it anymore. When overnight you can change the entire way business is conducted with precious metals. And precious metal, silver now is being recategorized as a strategic entity for national security and not just precious metals that we need for coinage. That the drain on the silver supply for guided missiles and rockets and batteries and solar panels and AI and all the rest is all part of now suddenly has elevated silver from being gold's ugly stepbrother to being on an equal or maybe even more important par than that, because gold is just going to be relegated to a storehouse of value. So there's the subject of Venezuela that should be discussed, as opposed to whether or not Orange Man Bad violated the Constitution, going in there and snatching someone through their in a sovereign country, all the while ignoring the fact that Barry, sent in, SEAL Team 6 to snuff Osama bin Laden in a sovereign country without their permission, blah, 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 blah. So, it's the whole idea is to clear out the conversation of all the riffraff. And if I was doing a talk show, that's what we would do. We would be spending time, like I hear, what's his name? Not Mancow, the guy on Sirius. Comes on after David Webb. No, it doesn't matter. Wilkow.
Oh, okay.
Andrew Wilkow. And it just goes on and on and on, bloviating on all this constitutional bullshit. And it's irrelevant. It's immaterial to the average person. I mean, you want to sit there and have fights in the Senate, the House, Supreme Court. Was Orange, was Trump do something? The idea, just the idea that Trump, who may or may not be a constitutional scholar, hasn't surrounded himself with constitutional scholars, attorneys, professors, and has the source of all these people to be able to say, hey, if I do this, is it illegal? Duh. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. He's very attentive to not flat out breaking the law. He does what he does. He lets the Democrats sit there and get into a stink about it and file lawsuits. And these circuit judges do all these prohibitions, which he promptly appeals. And hey, guess what? The Supreme Court decides in his favor. So there's a bit of a delay, just like the 7-second delay. There's a bit of a delay in getting the job accomplished. But everybody else is bogged down in the emotional ping pong of whether or not it was a good or bad or moral or constitutional or whatever. I mean, just resign yourself to the fact that you've elected a benevolent dictator and he's going to mostly do the right shit. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yep. And, like that, it sounds fine on this end as far as the quality goes. If we don't need the picture and we just put like a static picture up, just like, even if you create a logo or whatever, that's fine. From your end coming in, and I have the ability to put just an overlay, just like a logo or a graphic or something. It could say, the Brian Wilson talk show, whatever. So to bring you up like that and not have to worry about the video from your end or my end, and just go with the static image, I think we're good to go with that. The next part of it is, okay, well, if you want to do talk show and be able to incorporate callers, that is something that I can test. Actually, if you give me a second right now, just curious because I haven't done this yet, but I do have the.
Well, there'd be plenty of time to do that on the basis of we're not going to start with that. We could work into it. So all the learning curve and the technical testing and phone calls and all the rest, we could we could work our way into that. I'm thinking that at least initially, uh, there's 2 or 3 topics that I would ordinarily write about, but I can talk about and not go into the same depth that I might write about, pointing to future articles, or just be able to keep up current. As I've written about on Substack, the difficulty for me, is that all these other people have either got the time or the typing speed or the research resources or so on.
Bless you.
Excuse me, to crank this shit out, 1,000, 1,500 words of decent material. I don't have that. Partially, a big part of that is because I don't give a fuck. The details of so much of this stuff gets lost in the rhetoric. Yeah, if you could state, for example, all these people that are bitching about Trump doing this as extra constitutional, he's gone out and he's declared war, unconstitutionally declared war on a sovereign nation. No, he didn't. He hasn't declared a fucking thing. He sent a bunch of sharpshooters in there, snatched these 2 people out of bed, threw them on a helicopter, got them out of there. Where's the declaration of war? Well, he violated a sovereign country. Well, so what? So did Clinton. So did Obama. Who hasn't? You go back to Eisenhower. The Carter in Iran. What do you? All of a sudden, because Trump's doing it, it's a big fucking deal. This is asinine. It's hypocritical. It's counterproductive. And it overlooks bigger issues as to whether or not you're going to figure out a way for some judge to say that Trump was guilty of violating the Constitution and the War Powers Act. Fucking War Powers Act is more muddy and fucked over than whether or not there's UFOs. So it's asinine, in my opinion, to be pursuing that stuff. Now, granted, there are going to be people who think this is the greatest thing, to sit there and jerk off on this stuff because they're detail oriented, they're more academic oriented. It's just like talking to an engineer or a CPA or a lawyer. The details are so important. They're important to that personality, to that mindset. Are we going to settle anything here? Are we going to change the course of human events? No, we're just jerking off. So let's stick to something that's more compelling and immediate and has a direct application, to the conversation of the day, rather than getting off into, how many angels are dancing on the head of the Second Amendment or some more shit like that. That's never going to be resolved. Everybody's going to have a different opinion, a different source of information, and unless we can get Jonathan Turley on, what the hell? It's the greater thing, to my mind, is to get this into exposing the hypocrisy, the double standard, the asininity of the political element trying to come up with all this bullshit just to score points. They're not interested in all they want to do is the exposure. I'm rambling myself. This is equally stupid. So anyway, as far as the phone calls and stuff are concerned, I thought, well, if we wanted to do this, on a once or twice a week basis, then in the interim time, as subjects develop, like the situation with this guy, Nick, what's his name, up in Minnesota, and all of the daycare centers and so on, then a general position could be staked out for like an opening monologue. And then you could construct, or we could hijack from other areas questions pertaining to the subject, like the daycare stuff. What's being done about it? Who's doing the investigating? How many people have been arrested? By whom and where? Where's Pam Bondi's been getting an awful lot of bad ink here lately for not putting anybody in jail. Well, are people being put in jail or not? If so, where, how many, and for what? Is she not doing anything, or is it the mainstream media just deciding to not cover it? I mean, there's a lot of shit that people don't know that actually happened, but they don't know about it because their local evening news with David or Yamas or whoever this new guy is on CBS haven't bothered to report it. Ta-da!
Yeah.
So,
Likely they
so
won't
therein
either.
lies therein lies a question that that by focusing on that could actually have a positive effect on raising the awareness of people who are listening because they don't think about this shit. Well, I haven't heard about that. Well, why haven't you heard about that? Well, I watch the news every night. I watch Fox. I watch CNN. I watch maybe ITV. Yeah, so do I. So why is it that we don't know about it? Why is you have to go to X, or any of these other alternative sources to get the story? Because the legacy media isn't going to report it. They haven't reported it. They're not going to report it. They don't give a shit. I don't know if you ever read any of Catherine Herridge's stuff, but she's been popping out with some great stuff about how CBS cut her off at the knees when she wanted to bring up these various subjects about Russiagate and so on. And she had time, date, facts, places, fingerprints, and everything. Oh no! So they just cut off, proving that corporate censorship of facts by a qualified, objective reporter has taken place in our lifetime. And so it's those things I think are worthy of reporting. Uh, I can't think of to take on a subject just for the sake of taking on a subject. When I see like Rogan talking to Musk, I'll talk to Musk. I got questions. That'd be fun, but we're not going to get people like that unless or until we get a following of some sort. So,
What you're describing right now brought to mind. Do you remember a show? I guess it was a couple of decades ago called Not Necessarily the News.
I remember the show. I'm trying to remember the content.
It was actually
kind of a satire.
It was a satire. It was more of a comedy type show, but the name of it is what caught my attention because what you're describing to me is you're not going to get this on the news, and nor will we ever in our lifetime anymore get factual reporting because the media has been captured, and it's only going to spurt the narrative that they want you to hear. And if taking your perspective as a broadcaster and a soothsayer of your insightfulness of an understanding of the news and the stories and the people behind it, coming up with something that's a catchy, like just to think about, okay, not necessarily the news, but your perspective. Why aren't these facts or information being reported on the mainstream media? Well, because they're just not going to do it. But if we get you to come on, and by the way, I think twice a week would actually be a good thing, picking be it a Tuesday or a Friday or something like that. So, the start of the news cycle and the end of the news cycle and whatever falls in between there, even, if it was to begin with 10 or 15 minutes of time, or if you want, I don't know if you noticed, it popped on the screen that we've got about 10 minutes left of time on Zoom here. That was a few minutes ago. So if we abruptly get cut off, I'll call you back. But so what I'm getting from you right now is that video is not at all important to you. And that, nor is it with me. But if we get a little graphic or something up that just says, Brian Wilson talks or Brian Wilson speaks or whatever, that's fine. When we're done here, what I'm going to do later this afternoon is go back and listen. I've been recording all this so I can go back and listen to, what's being fed from where and kind of dissect it to make sure the quality, your voice sounds fine on this end. Now it's going out on the stream. And when I go back and I play that back, and I'll send you the video copy later so you could hear it for yourself and give me your opinion. It's like, hey, are you satisfied with that quality or not?
Okay.
That would
I think the logo idea is great. I think that if there was a way to do that so that the viewer sees the logo, but you and I have eye contact, I think that would be a major advantage. For whatever reason, hand signals or whatever.
Sure. And I think that's
that's
actually
that's
easier to
possible.
do
Yeah.
than
The other
to
part I think is a good idea is to take the to take it from the standpoint of, you know, obviously we can't use the term. I'll try and come up with something, but the things that aren't reported. Like for example, I did one of the most popular pieces I wrote for New Rockwell was, why is it that you never hear about the drugs that these shooters are on, going back to Columbine and coming all the way up front? All you hear about is the gun. We need to do something about the gun, and how can this happen, and those poor children, blah 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 blah. And I wrote, okay, so the reason for it is obvious. Watch the news and see who's running the commercials. It's Pfizer, it's all the drug companies. If they're the ones that are manufacturing this shit, so they come on and say this guy killed 6 classrooms through Sandy Hook. They blew away all these elementary school kids, and he was on Zoloft and Lift Off and Rub Off and Jerk Off and all these things, all of which are made by Pfizer. Well, holy shit! What do you think the commercial backlash is going to be when we say, "And we'll be back right after this"? Hey, Pfizer's got this thing. They run these fucking drug commercials, and that's all they're running. Yeah. If you watch network news at all, you hardly see anything other than fucking drug commercials.
And I don't understand.
And that was a major deal. There was a number of people who imitated that column in other areas. So anyway.
What's ironic too is that, okay, we went into Venezuela to stop this drug trafficking, and yet Trump went ahead and reclassified marijuana as, so you can't have it both ways, in my opinion. You can't say, well, okay, cocaine and whatever that other thing is, the fentanyl is far more, addictive. That, hey, you've legalized marijuana, you've reclassified it, and
well, that's an interesting point. But my understanding is that marijuana is no big deal. Yeah, you get the buzz and the munchies, and where it has caused serious problems is when we've gone down and sprayed the crop with some sort of shit.
Yeah,
and smoking that stuff will put you in an early grave. But the other part of that too is fentanyl has killed 150,000 people just in the last 6 months. No, it hasn't.
Yeah, well, that's what they want you to believe, and
exactly.
They spew it out.
But that's the point of bringing up a different perspective. Say 150,000 people died because 150,000 people made really stupid decisions to take a pill they bought from some guy on the playground, thinking it was going to give them a happy time. And what they got for a happy time was a pine box, that's showbiz. Let's cull the herd. People making stupid decisions like that, all they're going to do is get a job at the DMV anyway. So what's the loss? But that's my take on how to deal with subjects like that. Just like with the daycare and the fraud and Waltz and so on. The juxtaposition of how they can find people that were in the Capitol on January the 6th within 72 hours, but they can't find some guy that raped a 3-year-old, who out in the woods. So it's just that's same thing with the politicians. Everybody else goes to jail immediately forever, but you got Hillary and Obama and the J6 committee, all these people walking around, Clapper, Brennan, with impunity.
Oh yeah.
And that I think is the cause of the red ass for the majority of people. But anyway, I think that's the tack to take. And then once the subject has been established, then a couple of questions. Well, so what you're saying? Maybe pick them off, Facebook or something, or X. The people who make those comments. Anyway, it's something to work on, and we can do a couple of trial runs and see what happens. You can be dealing with the problems at that end that I have no fucking clue about. I'll work on the subject matter and the more creative, as in show tunes, that kind of shit.
And we can even do like a feedback thing too, where even if the calls aren't live, if people want to leave opinions, questions, comments, what have you, we can provide a number where they can at least, like how iFart has their talkback thing, and we could just pull.
Well, yeah, I've heard about that. I've never seen it. If there was a number that people to call and leave their whatever, and we could, comment or a bitch session or cluster, and you sit there and weed them out because you're going to get the assholes and the idiots and the filibusters and all the rest, and find the person that's got a legitimate question, lift it, play it back here.
Mhm.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
That'd be really cool. Doesn't have to be day one, but I think that's the idea. We can kind of gradually. I can try and gradually build the audience off of Substack.
Yeah, that's where our 10 minutes ran out.
What?
That when I don't know if you saw the message on the screen where it said we had 10 minutes and
I did not.
it cut us off.
I don't think that in the past. I think the problem there has been only the host gets to see that unless you've got a choice to make it some other.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well,
But
yeah.
anyway, I still got you on camera. I don't even said so, but I'm still seeing you.
Oh, interesting. That's probably because you're watching it on the stream, because the stream is still going live right now, even though
okay.
I'm so.
All right. Well, I'll bail out on the. I'll try to bail out. There you go.
On the Zoom.
But,
Yeah, I'm already off the Zoom part of it, but the stream is still going.
I'm still seeing you on YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't end it. If I click right now on end stream, I'm gonna go end
Here you go.
and